All right, good evening. Good evening to our cherished viewers online. This evening we are here to present another edition of our radio lecture series, and specifically we're going to talk about the school curriculum, social change and national development. I'm here with my colleagues. My name is Stephen APAU from the Department of Educational Foundations.
And I'm MIRIAM OGAH.
And I'm Alex TETTEH.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for joining us. We are very grateful for all the students who have joined us online. It's very unfortunate we can't transmit live through the airwaves, but our social media platforms are still active. You can join us on Facebook, Radio Windy Bay 98.3. This evening, even though we can't broadcast live, we can't present the airwaves through the airwaves, our phone lines are still active, 0503-923158, 0503-923158. Our WhatsApp line remains the same. And so if you have questions, you have comments, you can just jot them down. And as the presentation goes on, we will give you the opportunity to phone in with your questions, your comments, and everything that you have. This evening, we're talking about the components of the school curriculum. Mr. TETTEH and Ms. MIRIAM OGAH, you are welcome once more.
Thank you.
So, as far as the components of the school curriculum is concerned, what can you share with us?
Right. So, the components of the school curriculum, when you take a number of curricula, what are the common things you see? They are basic to see in any official curriculum. Now, in talking about the curriculum here, one, we are not talking about the broad sense or broad view of the curriculum. Here we are talking about the official curriculum. Even with the official curriculum, we are concentrating on the syllabus or a program. What are some of the common things that when you have programs, you see them appearing almost in any of them, right? So that is basically what we are going to look at. Yeah.
Miss Miriam, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I think all has been said, but let me also add my voice. So this evening, it is not going to be something that is entirely new. We are going to have a discussion on the components. In other words, we may decide to call it in a layman's voice as parts of a curriculum. And so we're going to look at the features of, let's say, the curriculum that we are using across the entire levels of education in this country. This is to say that if a student or an individual lays hands on a material which is referred to as a curriculum or a program or a course, one would expect to see or identify that particular program package as having 4 different parts or components. And so for our level, we are saying that every curriculum has basically 4. We are limiting ourselves to only 4, at least for the level that we are dealing with. That if you pick the curriculum or the course outline for EDC 111, the School Curriculum, Social Change and National Development, we are supposed to identify 4 basic things about it. It could be more, but at least 4.
Good. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And so whatever you have said is true. To sum up, we are just saying that if you pick any official curriculum, even if you don't see anything at all, you should see 4 basic elements, and very soon we will start to identify them. But let me stress that there are a lot, but because of the level that we are dealing with, we are picking the basic ones. And basically we are saying that if one day you are appointed as a curriculum expert to go and design a school curriculum, even if you don't put anything at all in the curriculum, there are certain 4 elements that you need to put in the curriculum. And so these are the things that we are going to discuss as far as this submission is concerned. And so we are starting. So I'll start with Miss Miriam Oga.
Okay.
So what are these components?
Okay, these 4 components that we are going to discuss comprises of the purpose statement or purpose, content, learning experience, and then evaluation. I believe we shall take each of them one after the other and then see what they are.
Good.
So we are going to begin with the first one, which is purpose. The first question that one would ask a student who probably, let's say you go home and then in your community you meet this long-time friend or family member, and the person asks you, oh, so where are you now? Oh, I'm in UEW, University of Education, Winneba. Wow, reading which program? And so you mention the program you are reading. Oh, is that so? So what is the program about? I believe you would justify why you are reading that particular program and the essence of the program. And so the purpose has to do with the why of the curriculum, just like we rightly noted. And so why should your program or a subject, why should we consider the study of a particular program or subject? So the why exposes us to the rationale behind the study of, let's say, mathematics, hypers, art, and all that. And so if you pick a curriculum or the course outline in this instance, our students can look at it from that angle. You realize that the purpose for reading the course is indicated on it. Sometimes you will find it as the learning outcome. And so this basically exposes one to the reason why you are studying the subject. And so the purpose statement has to do with the rationale, the aim that justifies the inclusion or the study of this particular subject or course. So we keep telling you that we are being trained to teach in various subject areas at the first cycle or second cycle institutions. So I believe by now you may have soft copies of the curriculum or the syllabus on your phone. You may know if you lay hands on any curriculum, we are not saying that the first sentence will read the curriculum for, let's say, physics has 4 parts. 1, purpose. 2, content. It have been crafted in different ways. And so, for instance, the history curriculum has the rationale. The rationale basically exposes us, it justifies the study. Why? So it introduces one to the reason why we are studying the subject, hence the purpose. And so the purpose, being known as the why of the curriculum, is considered as the aims, the goals, and objectives. It is the aims, the goals, and the objectives of a particular subject or course that justifies or that provides us with a substantive reason why that subject or course needs to be studied. And so we are not going to, I don't think we should go into the aims, goals, objectives, because last time it was discussed. Yeah. So basically the first component about purpose, this is what.
Mr. TETTEH, do you have anything that you want to add?
I think Madam Miriam has done it all. So the purpose, as she said, rightly said, it can be stated in 3 different ways, as she said. So the purpose can be stated as broad, as midway, and as narrow. So that we'll have, as she said, the aim, the goals, and the objectives. These are the forms that we can state the purposes. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, my colleagues. And so the next component that I want us to look at has to do with the content. The content. Mr. TETTEH, in brief, in plain language, as a student, if I meet a layman on the street and he asks me, what is the content? What am I supposed to say?
Okay, thank you very much. So the content basically is what is also called the subject matter. That is what we can also refer to as the what of the curriculum. The what. So you have the purpose. But then in order to achieve the purpose, you need to have a subject matter. The content that needs to be studied that will give us the purpose at the end of the day. And so the content has to do with the knowledge, the skills, the attitudes, among others, the generalization, the theories, the principles that we have to study in order to achieve the purpose of the curriculum. So basically, the subject matter is the what of the curriculum.
Good. Ms. Miriam, do you have anything to add?
Oh yes, I think the main theme there have been explained, that the purpose, the content has to do with the knowledge, the generalizations, the principles that is embedded in the objective or the purpose. And so it is important that we remind our cherished viewers currently, especially level 100 students who have registered for the course, that as far as the content is concerned, it takes 2 forms in the school curriculum. We have the formal content and then the informal content. What are we referring to as the formal content? And so the formal content, it is still the knowledge, the principles, the values that is derived from the subject itself. And so if you are reading a course like EDC 11, you remember that right from the beginning, we have had interactions on the nature of curriculum as far as the relationship between curriculum and education is concerned. So whatever you have derived from that topic, we had discussions on Tamaklo's categorizations, Henson's categorizations. We went on to look at terminologies in curriculum. Right now, we are having a discussion on the components of the curriculum. So the knowledge that one derives from the various thematic areas. Apart from EDC 111, if you look at the program you are reading, usually I like using the core subjects as an example because that is what we are all. So the knowledge that in mathematics, for instance, we derive from sets, 3-set problem, trigonometry, Pythagoras theorem, and all that. The knowledge that we get from the forms formal content in the school curriculum. And then we also have informal content. They are still the knowledge, the skills, attitudes that usually we derive from the hidden curriculum. And so the hidden curriculum, we have had discussions on it already. We know what they are. Those values, those things that we learn, which are hidden, they are silent. They are not mounted to be taught by teachers. So in as much as we have discussions around the various content, any other thing that we learn in school, so we're talking about midway definitions, any other thing that we learn in school, it forms the informal content. So basically that is a little that I don't know if Mr. TETTEH or yourself you.
Yes, and so I think we've said enough. Our students have to know that the moment you step in the classroom, you have to learn content.
Yeah.
So the content is what we teach for students to learn. It has a connection, like you rightly said, it has a connection with the objectives that you formulate, and so the content become more or less the vehicle for achieving your objective. And it could be in the form of a fact, like you said. So in this school, we are teaching students facts, we are teaching them theories, we are teaching them principles, and so on and so forth. So thank you very much. I would want us to look at learning experience. Ms. Miriam OGAH, so what do you have for us as far as learning experience is concerned?
Okay, learning experience. This man, Ralph Tyler, has given us a definition that most scholars have subscribed to. And I believe we, the three panels seated here, we also subscribe to that. He says what learning experience is the interaction between the learner and the external conditions in the environment to which they react. And so we go to the classroom, we plan to go and teach. It is one thing having a course outline, which indicates the objectives of the course, topics to be covered every week, as far as the revision of the formal content is concerned. But this will be meaningless if students do not have interactions on it. So we are looking at the interaction that the learner has with other conditions in the environment. So here, the teacher, for example, serves as an external environment to the learner. That is not the only thing. The playground, other teachers in the school, the very furniture that we sit on, the classroom environment. What is happening now? We are interacting around this content. Unfortunately, we can't transmit via the radio frequency. You get it? So all these things will go a long way to impact teaching and learning. That is learning experience. So it is a learning experience. Putting in measures, everything that we need to put in place as far as communication around the content is concerned. And so Tyler says that if learning will take place on the part of the learner, then the learner must have interactions amongst themselves, other teachers, and even the environment. Sometimes, you see, you can sit beside a talkative in class. Before you realize, that friend you are sitting beside will determine whatever you learn. It may not be the formal alone. The hidden is so before you realize, you turn into a talkative. It is a learning experience. Your learning is dependent on so many things. So we have a course outline. You go to the classroom. Let's say there's light out, so we can't project anything. Now you have to pay attention with your ears. So anything that is likely to react, that the learner is likely to react to. You are sitting on a furniture and unfortunately it's not balancing well. You have to adjust yourself in such a way that you don't fall for maybe colleagues to laugh at you or something. All these things will affect you simply because in your during your 2 hour or 3 whatever period in class, you will have to adjust yourself in a certain way so that learning can occur. So anything that reacts, anything that does not form part of the personality of the individual or the learner is external. If you ask me to identify the parts of my body, so my head, my hands, my leg, my hair and all that, any other thing that is attached to me which is likely to have an interference on me is external. It may cause me to either learn or unlearn. Yeah. And so learning experience, that is why most scholars subscribe to Tyler, that the external condition, the interaction between the learner and the external conditions in the environment. So maybe you are in school, let's say a typical senior high school. Hey, this time around that this teacher is on duty, if you don't take care and you try to break bounds, you will be debordized. Yeah. So during this period, nobody wants to. So learners, the teacher serves as external, or the nature of the school that you find yourself in. And so before you look at all these things, they are likely to have an impact on your learning. It can be anything. That is why I keep saying that in basic terms, something that is not attached to your body is external to you. Your uniform is almost like a mini skirt. So when you are sitting in the classroom, you have to external to your learning until the period is over. Then you feel free and go. I think I'm talking too much, so let me end it. So you continue.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Tete, let me come to you. Learning experience.
Yes, Madam Miriam has done a good job, and I think that there is less for me to say.
But, say more.
Maybe I have to say that just like we had in the case of the content, we had the formal and informal. When you come to the school, especially our cherished listeners who have been trained as teachers, you come here to learn 3 things: the content, and then the learning experience, or here let me call it the methods that will help you to teach the content for which you have been trained as a teacher. And then there is another one that I call the lubricant. That is your behavior, attitudes and behaviors. So by the time you leave this university as a teacher trainee, you are going to acquire these 3 things. Now, the former, the learning experiences, as we saw from formal content, are those experiences that are structured. Yeah, those ones that are structured. The opportunities provided for us to learn in school that are structured, such that, so your teacher decides that you should use maybe role play to learn about the arms of government, the leaders maybe of the arms of government. It's one of the learning experiences. Then you can talk of informal learning experience. There are certain things we learn in school. The processes or the means by which we learn some of the contents could be informal, such that the means by which we learn those things are unstructured, and they happen mostly outside the classroom, even though we are not trying to say that they never happen also in the classroom. But mostly such experiences which mold our life and other things, we also get them outside the classroom, and they appear to be learned haphazardly. They don't follow any order. They are more of the informal curriculum. Good. Then there is one that is between the formal and then the informal, which we will call the non-formal. That, with the coming of technology, the non-formal learning experiences appear to be in vogue, in a sense that now you can just go on YouTube, and YouTube can teach you how to use or how to drive. Yeah. And you can also use other apps to learn so many skills, like typing, where we have Mavis Beacon. Mavis Beacon, at every moment in time, it will praise you. It will tell you that we have got to.
it can sort of punish you because you haven't been able to have proficiency in what you are doing, and therefore you cannot be graduated to the next level. This is like what really happens in a real classroom, and so we say it is non-formal. So this is what we call the non-formal learning experience. I'm saying that with the coming of technology, we appear to be having a lot more of these learning experiences coming every now and then. So this is what I will add to.
All right, thank you very much.
Just add a quick one.
Yeah.
So I believe when we're looking at the purpose, we said it is the why of the curriculum.
Yeah.
The content, we said it is the what.
Yeah.
And so learning experiences, we are saying it is the how of the curriculum. So for example, how are we delivering or having interactions on EDC 111? Face to face, V-class, we do activities there, and what we are doing now, that is how we are delivering the curriculum.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, colleagues. The little I would want to add is that the content can't teach itself. The content cannot teach itself. So as a teacher or as a would-be teacher, you may select a beautiful content, but if you don't complement it with a befitting experience, the classroom is likely, or the educational outcomes may not be achieved. And so it is always, and I tell the students that with the former, for instance, it is not everything that we can teach in the classroom. So the students should, we are in 21st century where the internet serves as a non-formal learning experience that has a lot to teach. And so students should take advantage of some of these opportunities and then learn, because day in, day out, new knowledge emerge, and it is not possible to learn everything when you find yourself in the classroom. And so both the formal, the non-formal, and the informal are very important in our development as students. And if you downplay the role of one of them, you are likely to become deficient in your educational practices or in your instructional practices in the classroom. The next one, and before we do that, let me quickly announce the phone lines again: 0503 923158, 0503 923158. If you have just joined us, this is Radio Windy Bay 98.3, and this evening we're talking about components of the school curriculum. And so you can phone in now, you can send SMS. We are here to address whichever concern that you have as a student. And so, Mr. TETTEH, let me start with you. So we're talking about the last of the components, which has to do with evaluation.
Yes.
What is evaluation? And
all right. Let me begin by saying that you have the purposes, you have the content, you have the learning experiences. How do you know that these components are really working? How do you know that the curriculum is really functioning as expected? How do you know that the learners are achieving certain things that you do, like the assessments, formative assessment and the summative ones? They are all geared towards the evaluation of the learner's level of achievement of the content. We must say that the evaluation is very, very important. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to tell whether the purposes are good and the extent to which the content are really feeding into the purposes, and whether the learning experiences that learners are engaging in are valid and they are helping learners to develop the skills in the contents that we expect them to develop. And so without the evaluation as a component, it will be very difficult to have a functional curriculum.
good.
Yeah.
Miss Miriam.
Okay. Still on this. Well, a detailed one have already been given by my colleague. So evaluation, whenever we're going to teach, we state objectives. So at the end of the day, we want to find out the extent to which the objectives we have stated are met. And so if you take a look at the course outline, I said these 4 basic components, if you don't have any curriculum at all, you have that of EDC 111. Look at it, you will find it there. It's a course assessment guidelines. I believe at this time we have had at least a quiz in the course, irrespective of the program you are reading. It is part. You want to find out extent to which the objectives we have captured on the course outline are being met. We'll be writing mid-semester examinations. We come to class and during teaching, we ask series of questions. All these things form part. End of semester examination is also there. Apart from all this, there's a critical component there about the evaluation, which can also be referred to as a product. So we are looking at the product of the curriculum. Having gone to university for 4 years and read your BEd, your art education or political science education, what can we say or what can we identify as far as your having gone through the program is concerned? And so the evaluation, yes, apart from the fact that you have a first class in a particular program that you read, society is also going to examine us. And so at the end of the day, one expects to see you, or society will expect to see you in a certain way, which is of course something that is relevant or worthwhile. So we are looking at your total development, the extent to which we can say that indeed you have been refined through the program you have read, as far as your ABCD and whatever is concerned, and then any other worthwhile thing. And so basically the evaluation we are saying will refer to trying to find out the extent to which objectives we have stated for a lesson have been achieved.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Miriam OGAH. And so, as I said, if you have just joined us on Facebook, this is Radio Windy Bay 98.3. Unfortunately, today we are not transmitting through the normal frequency, and so we're using Facebook Live. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you can phone in 0503 923158, and that same number, it's for WhatsApp and SMS. And so the next thing that we want to talk about is curriculum development. I'm sure today we will look at the first phase of curriculum development. We will pick one of the models and discuss it, and then God willing, next week when we come, we will continue with the rest of the models. So specifically, we're talking about the Tylerian model, but even before that, let me throw the question: curriculum development, what it is, what is it?
All right. So, curriculum development, the experts say it is complex, it is cyclical, and so it is that complex cyclical process of planning, implementing, and evaluating the curriculum. So that tells us that there are 3 main components of curriculum development: the planning aspect, the implementation aspect, and then the evaluation aspect. Some experts even separate the planning aspect into 2. The planning that is basically about decision making and as to what to put into the curriculum, and then the designing aspect where people sit and now structure the curriculum. So the curriculum, the structuring, the patterning of the curriculum, they refer to that as curriculum designing. But whatever the case may be, basically the processes are 3: planning, implementation, evaluation. Now, if we are preparing planning a curriculum, what approach should we use? How are we going to start it, and where are we going to end it? What should be our benchmark? Is there any prototype that we are looking at? Are we having some standard that we can associate with and follow that and see whether we'll be able to make something functional. And so the curriculum development here, some even see, as we know, if you are developing, let's say you are developing a program, maybe it's just like making something. So sometimes the planning process, the planning and the designing process is also sometimes generally called the development process, which is also acceptable because that is the process, right? Good. So we say it's a process, and the process is cyclical, and it never ends. If it is cyclical, then it appears that it never ends, and it is also complex. Yeah.
There are times you hear people using words such as curriculum review, curriculum reform, curriculum innovation, and so on and so forth. Are we saying this evening that all these terminologies, irrespective of how you use them, they are all geared towards curriculum development?
Of course, yes, you're right. They are all within the curriculum development process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if a teacher is going to the classroom and he decides that there is a particular suggestion in the curriculum, or let me use this example, you pick social studies textbooks and you still see that Ghana has 10 regions. So if as a teacher I'm going to the classroom and I decide to tell my students that yes, Ghana used to have 10 regions, but now we have 16. Have I developed the curriculum?
Here you could see that, yes, there has been a change. Initially it was 10. Now it's 16. So what has happened? There is a change. So any change in the curriculum is part of the development process. And that is what makes the curriculum development cyclical and never ends.
Good.
So at every moment in time, you come across certain things that we also say that curriculum emanates from the society. So
Yes.
curriculum emanates from the societal needs. Therefore, as society changes, as the economy changes, as our culture changes, what we learn in school will also change.
Yes.
And so even if it is not officially changed in the curriculum, but the teacher in the classroom knows that now the regions are not 10, they are 16. The planets, we say they are no more 9, they are 8. Now they are saying they have even discovered one that is behaving like hide and seek. And they find it one time, another time it hides itself and so on. So a time will come, we might come back to 9 planets instead of 8. And so that is it. It is part of the curriculum development process, because new ideas that come, when they are put back into what we learn, they form. Definitely the curriculum does not remain the same at the time. So remember that there has been a change. It's part of it.
Good. I asked this question because I want our listeners to understand that when we talk about curriculum development, it does not only occur in Accra.
Sure.
Because if care is not taken, we may have this, I don't know how to, the appropriate term to use, but
Mindset.
yes, we may have this misconception, myth that, okay, curriculum development only happens in Accra. Because we are going to talk about the models.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to think, okay, so when they go to Accra, this is what they use. But they should understand that it is a process, there is a cyclical thing, and it never ends. It starts from wherever it will start from, and every now and then, so whenever you try to make any change in the curriculum to bring a desired result, a desired educational outcome, you are developing the curriculum. That is the point that I want our listeners to understand. Having said that, we're now going to talk about the models, and we should let our people understand what a model is. You use the term prototype. Model is a prototype, an example of, as you may want to call it. So I normally use buildings as example. So I've seen somebody's building. It looks nice. I want to go to my hometown and build a similar one there. The one that I saw has become what? A model.
Yeah.
Because that is what I'm going to try to more or less emulate in my hometown. And so a model is something that you can look up to and say, that is, so it comes from role model.
Yeah.
So you see somebody and you say, oh, when I grow, I want to be like this person. That person has become what? A model. And so this is it. And having said that, we are saying that if you want to design a school curriculum, people have given us examples, or more or less models, that you can look up to design your school curriculum. And so we've already spoken extensively about that in our various lectures. But in brief, I want us to take Tyler 1949 and look at the Tylerian model and all that. So I'll start with Miss MIRIAM OGAH. What do you have to tell us as far as Tyler is concerned?
Okay, so the Tylerian model of curriculum design. Now, this gentleman, I believe, like you rightly said, we have had some interactions, but not conclusive yet on the models. And so he's best known for the role he played in the evaluation of the curriculum. And so we will not go into the nitty-gritties of that, but we are going to concern ourselves with the fact that he proposed a plan, or the model we are talking about, the prototype and all the grammar over there, that if a country like Ghana, Togo, Nigeria, Australia, Canada, you want to design or develop a curriculum, I have proposed something. You can follow it and then do yours. Just like you rightly began when you were explaining that you see this building and you love it so much, and so you want to go and put up a similar thing. You can visit the occupier, and then probably he or she may give you the plan. Then you also go and give it to your contractor to put up something similar. You may adapt it or maintain it as it is. And so the point here is that he has a plan that if a country like Ghana, we want to develop a curriculum and we don't know how to go about the whole thing, or we are considering different building, we to call it architecture, right? Don't worry me, I'm not good at engineering, so this one is your area. And so you have this thing. And so all that he's simply saying is that if you want to review your curriculum, or it can be a change, innovation and all that, ask yourself 4 basic questions. So his model is based on 4 questions, simple questions as that he asked. And so he said, first of all, Ghanaian society, ask yourself, what educational purposes should the school seek to attain? And we have explained what educational purposes are. They are the aims, the goals, or the objectives. And so this was the first question. And then he went on and asked, what educational experiences can be provided that are likely to attain the purposes that have been stated? And so here again, we ask ourselves as Ghanaians, these aims or objectives that we have provided, what experiences can we provide such that at the end of the day we can achieve our goals? Remember, we talked about the 4th component of the curriculum, which is evaluation. Yes. And so he said, how can these educational activities or experiences be effectively organized? And then he went on and asked the final thing, how can we determine whether these purposes are being attained? And so basically, Ralph Tyler's model is based on these 4 components, these 4 questions, which later developed or culminated into steps or processes like purpose, learning experience. We can identify organization and evaluation. But it is important for us to note that one will ask, so these 4 questions, I believe we can find the first component there, educational purpose. So at least if you take the components that we just discussed in Ralph Tyler's model, we will find it in the first question that he posed. And then the second one, he talks about educational experiences. And we talked about the how of the curriculum. And then he went on to talk about effective organization. And then we looked at evaluation. How do we determine whether the purposes have been attained or not? I don't know whether I have to look at the analysis
especially
of it, the third one.
The third one,
okay.
The organization. So.
Okay, so here you would realize that, just like I mentioned, all the 4 components, the 3 of them are there with the exception of content, which is not boldly captured in his model. I believe Tyler foresaw something coming. He knew that a country exists like Ghana. That is why he didn't focus on devoting a whole question to the issue of content. This is not to say that if you want to follow Tyler's model, there's no content in the curriculum. The point is that he was entertaining the fear that if he puts a caption on content, Ghanaian practitioners or users of the curriculum, especially the implementers or the developers, will list a number of content for students or for teachers to implement. So we end up giving the topics to them, let them go and learn. And so that is why he rather focused on effective organization of the learning experience to him. And so you realize that he says what? If an objective will be achieved, the learner must be made to practice that objective. You would realize that he came out very well as far as his stance on learning experiences are concerned. He said it is not necessary to go and list topics or areas for students to go and learn. Whatever you want to achieve, integrate it in the learning experience. If you put the content, if the content is hidden in the learning experience, the learner will learn the content without even knowing that it is content. What do we see at the basic or the early grade levels? If you are learning how to write and the alphabets, everything organized around it is, let me say, the learner takes active role. So the teacher says, round the apple down to the leaf is A. The student is happy and reciting it. The circle goes round. The circle goes round. Because of our market day yesterday, so my voice, pardon me. And so these little girls or children will be dancing around and writing the 0. If you want to write, is that what? A curve and a dash is 2.
Yeah.
The learner is learning so many things, phonetics of over there. Yeah. But you and I, we were trained in a curriculum where, and so when it comes to the teaching of the content, the teacher holds your hand, and then sometimes your eyes are even somewhere. Your hand is held and you are writing 1. Yeah. You are writing 2. What active role are you playing in it? The teacher has held your hand. But here, the teacher does something, the learner is so actively involved. I believe he knew, and this is a similar thing, and this approach is not only something that can be done at the basic level, even in the university. And so you have practical lessons. You realize that if the teacher lifts, if you are teaching about separation of mixtures and all that, so you have you want to separate gari from your sugar or water. You have your apparatus and everything. The students are also standing behind yes. You do one, they also see and do. They may not even, you may tell them that today I have something, we have something to do. Just follow the steps as you see me do. Before you realize, oh wow, we have been able to separate this from that. Here, it is not about the content telling them that after all, he has told that if you go to the classrooms now, you share your objectives with your students. This is what is happening. I think Tyler knew that even with this, And so here, what do we see?
As far back as
Oh,
1949.
we have as far back as 1940. He saw this. He was a prophet. He says, what happens now? Oh, sometimes students will go and call their teachers that they have. Please, sir, it's time for class. We have, let's say, integrated science now. Oh, is that so? I have a meeting. You take the notes, go and copy. When I come next time, I'll come and explain. It is more or less like devoting a whole content as a step. So the students, what do? You go and copy the notes with all the mistakes. Sometimes the teacher will come all right the following day or week, explain whatever he has said. But the learner has not, you see, so here, you haven't organized effectively the content and the learning experience. So what happens? We manage, we chew, we go and pass the exams and go. But at the end of the day, sometimes you don't even understand what you have memorized and you are pouring. But simply because you haven't organized the content, you haven't integrated it well. You mixed it all right, but you mixed it in your lesson note. The learner didn't play any active role. So, indeed, Tyler says that don't worry yourself putting down whatever you want to teach. Let the learner be actively involved in it. And automatically, he or she will learn.
Good. Mr. Edcr, do you have something to add?
Okay, I think Madam Miriam has done it all. But then we often hear that Tyler's model is also called the deductive model.
Yes.
It is so because clearly you realize that the model, sometimes people ask, which one is the model? Is it the questions? So clearly you can deduce the model from the 4 questions. Yeah, you can deduce that. And so that is what makes it deductive. That is maybe one of the reasons for which it is deductive. Others are also even saying that the content is not clearly stated there, but you can deduce the content. Yeah. So it makes it more deductive. Yeah. A student in class made, I think maybe the English language class, the student made a very wonderful presentation. I liked it. Even though it was an insinuation to maybe support what, as one of the reasons for which Tyler did not add content to the components. He said, well, since Americans practice the centralized system of curriculum development, he will be, even the learning experiences, he didn't specifically state any, but he indicated the outcomes that whatever learning experience we engage in should let us have interest, skills, critical thinking, and those things. Good. So the content, you realize that he left it to the individual states. That was the insinuation the gentleman was making. He left it to the states and the districts to decide on the content based on their issues to feed into the national goals of education. Yeah. And I think it was a very good explanation, even though it's not obvious. This insinuation could also hold. And I think that we should encourage our students to also think around the box. Yeah, if it's not outside or around it. Yeah. So to be able to come up with some of these smart insinuations, they help.
I also want to add that siding with Miss Miriam OGAH, that is why in the organization of the learning experience, he mentions continuity. Because as the learner engages more with the learning experience, definitely learning is going to occur. Yeah. Because I go home and I look at my little girl and the kind of things the songs she sings, it is because every day she's with a TV. So continuity. Yeah. The more the learner practice a behavior, become part and parcel of the learner. Then it will get to a stage, the difficulty level of the activity would go up. Yeah. You are talking about your sequence. And then whatever experience you do should be integrated. Yeah. You don't treat it as a piecemeal, more or less. There should be that connection among the various activities that the learner performs. And so I think basically that is wonderful about Tyler. Okay. Unfortunately, because normally it's the start of the models, students struggle to understand it very well. Because that is why I like teaching them together. So when you teach Tyler, Taba, Hila, and then Walker, then you can really appreciate
the merits.
the
and demerits.
yes. So
Sure.
you can now compare
Yeah.
and contrast how the models differentiate themselves from
Yeah.
one another.
Yeah.
And so, thank you very much, a lady and a gentleman. It's been a wonderful presentation. If you have just joined us, it's almost time for us to end the discussion. This is Radio Windy Bay 98.3. Unfortunately, forgive us, we have a little challenge, and that's why we couldn't present on the normal frequency. God willing, we will meet same time next week. If there are questions, no, we don't have questions on Facebook. I don't know about the SMS, but if there are no questions and comments, we want to thank you very much, and thank you very much to our presenter who gave us the opportunity to be here this evening. We are very grateful. God willing, we'll meet here next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.